Welcome to the Stakecito podcast. Today, I'm extremely excited to have Charles Jose as my guest. Charles probably doesn't need an introduction for most of the people, but for those that don't know Charles, he's a CEO of the dYdX Foundation. But before we talk about dYdX and so on, Charles, how are you doing? How's the market treating you these days?
Very good morning. The market is treating us not so well now, but this is part of the journey, I guess. We need to be a little bit in hard times to enjoy the easier time later on. So all good. We keep building. There is still a lot of activity. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm also doing really, really great and excited for everything that is ahead of us. So thank you so much. Charles, you have an extremely impressive background, to be honest. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background, also about your past with Consensus, and maybe the head of fintech at the Hong Kong government?
Yes, absolutely. So I started my journey in crypto in 2011. I bought my first Bitcoin on Taobao, the Chinese eBay. And I was curious about Bitcoin because before looking into crypto, I was more into peer-to-peer file sharing. So
Mhm.
in my early days, I'm 46 years old today, I was looking at how computing was evolving over time and how essentially centralized network and centralized computing was starting to be decentralized. And the first use case coming to me was peer-to-peer file sharing. And where peer-to-peer money come as a topic, I had already some kind of understanding of distributed computer. So early on, getting my hands on this, and that was fun. I did a little bit of Bitcoin mining. I did like all kind of things, to be honest, just extremely curious. 2016, the business logics on chain with Ethereum was something which kind of revived my interest in crypto. After some time, I was just busy with other things in life.
Mhm.
And then I was at the time at the Hong Kong government as head of fintech. So I was really looking at how finance was being reinvented. And I was co-building the fintech ecosystem of Hong Kong together with central bank regulators and many other stakeholders. I was then invited to join Consensus. I created the Hong Kong office for Consensus. Then I was head of Asia. Consensus is a company behind MetaMask and Infura, if some of you are familiar with those products. So
Right.
very prominent engineering company where I had the opportunity to deep dive in the early days of DeFi, but also co-building CBDCs with central banks in all over Asia, to be honest, between Korea, Australia, Hong Kong, obviously, Abu Dhabi, Thailand, and some others. And I'm now with the dYdX Foundation for the past 2 years. Really stellar team. So that's really something which was very inviting for me when the opportunity arose to join these builders, building on one use case in crypto, which is extremely established, the DeFi use case, but also exploring like how engineering can essentially push forward this use case and this growth of market share and mind share. And I think at the moment I joined dYdX was really at a very interesting point of its story. dYdX was about to move away from layer 2 and Ethereum and starting to build its own blockchain. So it was really illustrating the app chain narrative. It was building with a strong leadership already on DeFi. And that was for me also an opportunity to kind of expand my knowledge and practice on a new stack, the Cosmos SDK stack, but also co-building DAOs with the ecosystem. I believe in DAOs. They are very experimental. They are sometimes efficient, sometimes not so efficient on other use cases, but they are definitely the future of collaboration and coordinations at internet scale. And that's why it's important to pay attention and get involved to make sure everyone starts the learning curve early.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Very interesting, Charles. Very interesting. And as you said, I mean, dYdX launched, I think, somewhere around 2017, 2018, before the term DeFi was even a word, I would say. So, very, very early days. Can you quickly let us know what is the role of the dYdX Foundation actually in terms of the platform?
That's a great question. dYdX started in 2017-18 as a protocol building DeFi, right? And then when dYdX started his journey to become like a decentralized protocol, having like the full stack decentralized, running his own chain, different entities kind of grew within the ecosystem. So today, if you want to map the ecosystem of dYdX, there is the dYdX trading company, which is registered in New York. This company was founded by Antonio Giuliano, a former Coinbase engineer. And there are about 60 best-in-class engineers building the protocol in an open source manner. Then there is the dYdX Foundation, which I'm part of. We are about 20 people in multiple countries, and we are in charge of growing the ecosystem overall, making sure the governance of the dYdX community is efficient, is also has enough velocity to make sure that the protocol move forward and take decisions fast enough. But we are also doing some strategic BD for the protocol itself, helping with the marketing, and essentially the kind of mind share for the brand and the protocol, as well as some kind of solution support for people who wants to understand how this open source software works and how they can essentially build on top of it. Beside dYdX Trading, dYdX Foundation, there is 2 additional entities plus another one coming up, and those entities are DAOs. So there is a dYdX Grants DAO, as well as the dYdX Operation DAO. Both have been created by the community and funded by the community, leveraging the treasury of the dYdX protocol. And there is in the talk right now a third DAO potentially coming up. That's public information. Everyone can participate in this conversation. The community is starting to think of a treasury management DAO, which will be a third DAO within the dYdX ecosystem, thinking how we put to work these hundreds of millions of assets that the protocol essentially own, and how we put them to work to increase the security of the chain, but also to generate additional revenues and make the protocol more sustainable by staking and putting to work the rewards from staking.
Right. No, I find it very interesting that, dYdX is truly permissionless or decentralized, in a way that dYdX itself, the protocol, is a DAO, so to say, because it consists of a decentralized validator set. Then you have the operations DAO, then you have the grants DAO, and now the discussions about the treasury DAO. So it really operates in this truly decentralized environment. That's
maybe to double click and illustrate this as well. I think you're making a very good point here. Even the foundation has been funded by the community. So early 2024, we essentially published a business plan for the foundation, and we discussed with the community on what could be the mission and the North Stars and the contribution of the dYdX Foundation to the dYdX ecosystem. Fast forward, we got some funding to essentially operate the dYdX Foundation for the next 3 years, having some different missions. We want to deliver on the governance, the business development, as well as support of users and builders in general. But I think, in my opinion, it's one of the very few ecosystems which is truly decentralized, down to the foundation itself. The foundation does not sit on all the treasury. The treasury is owned by the token holders. The treasury is owned by the protocol itself, and token holders have decided to fund the foundation, which is quite rare, and often the opposite. In many cases, the foundation is kind of the lord and giving away funding. We've been asking funding, and we got funding, and we get to work as much as the other DAOs are working also on the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And can you tell us maybe why do we need a treasury, or what is the benefit of a treasury DAO over just like using the treasury as it is right now? What is it? I mean, I've read the proposal a bit because we as a validator, we need to vote on this later on, right?
Okay.
But yeah. Maybe in your
own
words.
That's a great question. I invite everyone to connect to the dYdX forum to really get into the details of this proposal. But in essence, there is hundreds of millions of US dollar denominated in dYdX, which are essentially owned by the protocol. And this part of the treasury is static today. Nothing is happening with it. From time to time, the community votes to allocate a portion of this treasury to a DAO, the foundation, or some other initiatives. But otherwise, the money is kind of slipping. So the idea was to say, why don't we look at essentially creating a DAO to put this asset to work and contribute further to the security of the protocol. Stake this treasury as a community and token holders. We can also make the decisions together via governance proposal to stake those tokens, to essentially stake them to the validators within the dYdX ecosystem, and also increase the security, as I said, and also starting to create a diversification of revenue for the treasury. So the treasury is 100% made today of dYdX token, but for the long term, it will be interesting to think, okay, can we start to put some of these assets to work and maybe build a second part of the treasury, maybe in USDC? Can the treasury help with maybe buybacks? Can the treasury help with funding initiatives in USDC rather than funding initiatives in dYdX? So there is many benefits to a treasury DAO, and right now we see different teams specialized really in this kind of treasury DAO management, making proposals to the community, sharing their views of how a treasury DAO could look like. And that's an interesting conversation, and that's something which, as you mentioned earlier, will eventually, I suppose, come to a governance proposal where the token holders, more than 25,000 token holders within the dYdX chains, will be able to decide, with the support of their validators, if they decide to, on what is the best strategy for the treasury DAO, and which team should be in charge of that.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting. Speaking of governance and so on, so what is maybe the difference? I mean, dYdX itself is a governance token, and back then on Ethereum, I think it also had some governance functionalities, such as voting on lending rates and a few other things. So, what is the difference maybe to the dYdX governance token back then to now? What are some of the things that, it enabled basically the governance now on Cosmos?
You're touching on a very interesting topic here. Essentially, the Ethereum-based dYdX token was a governance-only token. So it could only allow token holders to vote on governance, but it was not able to capture any value. And the value created by the dYdX protocol is just massive. On good days, the protocol usually gets about $1 billion of trading volume, generating fees which are paid in USDC by the user. So it's a very large type of operation. But the token back in the Ethereum days was not able to capture any value. One of the reasons the dYdX community decided to essentially migrate to his own chain built on the Cosmos SDK with his own set of validators was to control the full stack from the application layer to the chain, but also having different advantages. And among them was the ability to essentially have the dYdX token evolve from being a governance only to become a utility token. And this is exactly what dYdX token is today. It's a utility token. So if you decide to stake your dYdX token, and I invite everyone obviously to consider deeply to stake with Stakecito, you can essentially transform your dYdX token into a reward generating token. And by securing the network via the validators, you get access to rewards, and these rewards are denominated in USDC. So it's really where the big difference in terms of token functionalities is. It used to be governance only, and now on the dYdX chain, it's governance and utility token. You are able to essentially receive rewards if you decide to stake in USDC, which is a very unique value proposition. When you stake dYdX, you don't get dYdX token. You get rewards in USDC. And where are these USDC coming from? They are coming from the users using dYdX and paying fees to essentially trade on the dYdX DeFi protocol. So it's really the illustration of an app chain. It's really the illustration of being a utility token and not essentially getting to reward the validators or reward the stakers with inflation, but reward them with the fees generating by the application. And this is extremely rare in the industry of crypto. Usually people are rewarded with inflations, but sometimes it sounds like we are reproducing the problems of fiat money where we print our own tokens with like no tomorrow in order to pay the security bills and reward stakers. With the dYdX framework, it's different, and that's something which I think a lot of stakers and token holders are paying attention to. As I said, 25,000 stakers today on the dYdX chain, and Stakecito, I think, is the largest family. I was looking at the statistics earlier this morning. From what I remember, more than 3,000 stakers on Stakecito. So you are the biggest group of stakers behind the Stakecito engineers and validators, and we like to share our gratitude for that. We are very honored to be building with you guys.
No, likewise, and it's an honor to be part of such an amazing protocol. And as you said, you guys really resemble sort of a true decentralized application with having, I think people used to call it real yield. Is it still real yield, the USDC that you pay out in a way, right?
I mean, they're not even yield. So if you look at your USDC yield or rewards rate on dYdX chain, depending on the day, it will vary. So if there is a lot of activity on the chain, the users will essentially pay large amount of fees because they want to trade on the dYdX protocol. If it's a quiet day, like in the past week, the usage level of the dYdX chain will go down and the rewards will be lower. So we've seen in the past, a few months ago, we could get APR of 30% on a daily basis. But if you stretch them over 30 days, we are more or less between 10 to 15% rewards in USDC again. But it's not a mathematic formula. It's basically 100% of the stake of the user trading fees are distributed to validators and stakers. That's very simple.
Okay, understood. Yeah, and I mean, our goal is obviously also to bring much more people into dYdX. I think 3,000 is still not such a big number if we compare it to a few other chains that we also validate. So I think there's still room to grow fast to bring more users into dYdX as well, and that's what we are trying to do here. So yeah, very, very cool. Can you maybe also, from your perspective, what else is the role of validators apart from, let's say, governance? Because I think validators also, for example, they contribute to the protocol through like development services and other things. So how do you see the role between validators and dYdX protocol?
Another great question. So validators obviously are the guardians of the chain. They are very, very important. I think if we bring together all the teams which are validating on the dYdX chain, we're probably close to 1,000 people. It's just an amazing group of people between the active and inactive. It's a very large group of talents. The first contribution of validators is essentially the engineering excellence. When you bring together around the same topic teams from all the corners of the globe working on implementing software and giving feedback on the testnet and eventually implementing the upgrades after the upgrades, is just a very strong contribution from validators. Then there is a governance part of it. Obviously, you guys at Stakecito understand the space very well, and you can have like a very well, I would say, research opinions on many of the difficult questions sometimes coming to governance participants and to validators. So that's an important point. And beyond these two core capabilities of validators, there is something maybe a little bit specific to the dYdX ecosystem. The dYdX ecosystem and the traders in general on dYdX are very sophisticated users. dYdX is focusing exclusively on the derivative markets. Derivative markets are very sophisticated and complex markets. So I would say the users of such infrastructure are also very sophisticated. So we see quite a few validators within the dYdX space actually expanding their services and contribution to the chain by offering, for example, to run full nodes for specific maybe institutional traders. So today, if you look at the technicalities of the dYdX chain and the order book, there is 2 layers, and I would say 2 functions for validators within the dYdX chain. So function number 1 is a very classic one, minting and verifying blocks. That's very common. But the second mission of dYdX validator is essentially to host the order book where the buy and sell orders are essentially meeting each other's. And this order book is hosted by the validators. It's not on-chain. On-chain would be too slow. Even if we have close to 1 second block time, in the world of high frequency trading, 1 second is a lot of efficiency to consider. So the validators of the dYdX chain are also hosting essentially a copy which they refresh very frequently about the order book, and they are also helping for the buyers and the sellers to meet each other. And that's an important function. So what it means is for sophisticated traders such as market maker or institutionals or even retail traders with I would say an appetite for premium infrastructure, they will often be in touch with validators and asking them, okay, can we find the ways that maybe you run a specific full node? A full node is a way for traders to essentially dispatch their orders towards multiple validators and making sure that they essentially hit the order book the most efficiently possible. So derivative trading is a very interesting one. It does not have the same requirement as spot trading. For example, if you trade on Osmosis or Uniswap, if your trade takes 1 second or 7 seconds, it's not a major deal unless you're moving very large orders. In the world of derivative, it's much more dynamic. So premium infrastructure delivered by some validators to those premium users are very interesting. To make sure that there is really like the right infrastructure for the right player. Some people connect to dYdX in a very simple way via some RPCs. Some others will go a little bit to the next level. And there is within the dYdX ecosystem quite a few validators which have also these extra with the services for users of dYdX to provide them not with the plain vanilla access to the chain, but with a premium access, I would say, which is healthy but optimized for such type of users. A little bit like you have some users on Binance buying and selling crypto assets via the user interface, but you also have users on Binance using APIs and essentially trading via algorithm or some other systematic manners.
Interesting. Yeah. So basically, validators do play a fairly versatile role, so to say, within dYdX. Not only securing the chain and so on, doing governance, but also like improving performance and accessibility and so on. Interesting.
And also bringing some of the best practices. I think if we look at the conversation happening between the engineering teams and the validators teams, there is a lot of feedback. There is a lot of ideas which they might see within different chains, which could be implemented on dYdX. dYdX is still a young chain. It's a chain which is really open to feedback. The engineers are listening and trying to make the best of the technology always. And I think the kind of hands-on experience from validators on multiple projects makes a difference, and that's a very important contribution. What we noticed also when we implemented the dYdX chain together with validators and the community is that the industry of validators has been evolving quite a bit. I would say probably 5 years ago, you will get validators which are mostly extremely small team, sometimes one guy only, which will be validating a handful of chains and working unlimited number of hours to make this happening. We still have this group of hardcore validators, but I think right now the industry has been evolving much more. We see some teams which are extremely organized, are very professional, which are picking projects they want to validate on, which spread themselves across the world so they can get like follow the sun operation. And the level of, I would say, engineering and the level of the staking team in general have been increasing big time. They compete among each other. You've got like the centralized exchanges coming in the game. You have very large shops in the validating business also, which are popping up. So this industry is clearly getting more and more professional. And that's for the benefit of the users and benefits of the builders as well, to be working with teams which are here to stay and which are working on being sustainable and bringing some extra value.
Yeah, Absolutely, I agree totally. I mean, the validator space itself is evolving all the time. Also, in terms of services, validators become more sophisticated, larger, and so on, more diverse. And yeah, you also have, as a validator, you need to pick your partners well, right? You don't want to like validate as many chains as possible, because a lot of them, sometimes turn out to be crappy or don't go well. So yeah, that's what we do as well. We want to work with chains that we really believe in, see the vision and the product, and so on. Cool. Charles, I want to be respectful of your time, so I have 3 questions left. Let's maybe quickly or briefly talk about what are some of the major achievements of dYdX in 2024, and what are some of the upcoming product milestones for the rest of the quarter, let's say.
So 2024 was, roughly speaking, the birth of the dYdX chain. dYdX chain was launched in December 2023. So 2024 we celebrated in July 200 billion US dollar of trading volume on dYdX. So that's really what we wanted to achieve, is to launch a chain which is functional and also having the users to migrate away from Ethereum to the dYdX chain. So this has been happening. The chain also has been integrated with major centralized exchanges. So today, you can get your dYdX wallet and deposit and withdraw on dYdX out of Binance, Coinbase, and the list goes on. So the integrations with the CeFi side is also there. Multiple wallets are integrated also. The latest one earlier this week was Kepler, a very famous wallet among the Cosmos community. So now you can essentially connect to dYdX directly with Kepler natively, which is something people were asking for a long time. So in terms of infrastructure, it has been really progressing well, and everyone is very happy about the performance of the chain overall and the integrations on the infrastructure side. On the business side, as I mentioned, one metric is the trading volume, 200 billion trading volume. Even though we're a little bit in a downside of the bull market right now, the activity is still there, and we see a number of traders and the level of activity we were expecting. What is upcoming is a very large upgrade, which will be happening in the fall of 2024. So in a few weeks, essentially. So dYdX will be upgrading itself to a new version of dYdX called dYdX Unlimited. So essentially, dYdX will be launching vaults. So the liquidity will be brought in on the order book. The liquidity will be brought in part by market makers, but also by some vaults, which are essentially AMMs. So making sure that we can provide liquidity over a very long tail of assets and a very large number of trading pairs. Talking of trading pairs, there is a second big update in October for dYdX, will be permissionless listing. So you will be able essentially to list any kind of asset on dYdX, and the vault will allow projects to bring some liquidity to that as well. So that's a big achievement we are all looking forward to. An affiliate system is coming up for very sophisticated trader. Permission keys are coming up as well. Prediction markets are supposed to be launched also within the October upgrade. So there is quite a few things happening. So we are all very excited about that. Maybe to touch also on one last point, which probably will be a trend of integration of dYdX with the crypto industry in general, which will amplify. A few months ago, dYdX essentially connected itself to the Solana ecosystem. So since a few weeks ago, you can essentially list any asset from Radium exchange on dYdX. You can list them. It takes a few days of governance, and then any meme coin or any coin available on Solana becomes tradable on dYdX in a perpetual futures contract format. And that's very interesting. Many people are thinking of composability. Many people are thinking, oh my God, those bridges are a little bit of frictions for users. But there is also, when you leverage the right technology, and in this case, this is a skip protocol Oracle system, you're able to essentially sit on your own chain, the dYdX chain, bit with the Cosmos SDK, but also being able to compose in a way or at least bring some assets and some activity from other chains without bringing the assets themselves, but just with the derivative contract. So all the assets on Solana now are tradable on dYdX, and we expect some other chains. There is very strong appetite for very large ecosystem, which are non-Cosmos ecosystem, to be growing. One milestone also for dYdX is the growth of TVA when it comes to USDC on the dYdX chain. So as you know, the one chain within the Cosmos space is Noble USDC. And if you look at the numbers, Noble USDC, I think, represent about 250 million US dollar of USDCs within the Cosmos ecosystem. And 60% of these USDCs on Cosmos are actually sitting on the dYdX chain and used by dYdX. So the same way we've been a very large user of USDCs in the Cosmos, in the Ethereum world, where at some point dYdX was the 5th largest holder of USDCs globally. We are also growing as one of the major contributors to the growth of USDC by the amount of USDC sitting on the dYdX chain, because this is where they get to work the most efficiently, and users are big consumers of Noble USDC. So we are very happy about this collaboration as well.
Wow, interesting. I wasn't aware that it's like 60% of Noble USDC on dYdX, but makes it a ton of sense, especially since you are utilizing it a lot. Very interesting. Yeah. So then you mentioned permissionless listing. What does it mean specifically? Does it mean there will be no governance process, or the governance process will stay for the assets?
So the permissionless listing still have to be launched, but essentially today it's permissionless with governance proposal, which takes about 4 days and require a deposit of 2,000 dYdX. The next generation of these permissionless listings should essentially skip the governance process. All the details will come later on. But this means that teams from the Cosmos ecosystem or from other ecosystems will be able to list on dYdX in a permissionless way. And that's a very strong value proposition if you think about it. There is obviously still a lot of innovation within the crypto space. A lot of new projects and new tokens are coming to life. But the reality, when you launch a new token to get listed on centralized venues, it takes a lot of money and months of waiting. So one strategy some newer tokens are taking is essentially to get themselves listed on DeFi, should it be Uniswap or maybe Osmosis and dYdX, to build the momentum around their token, to bring the history of volumes and attention of their token in order for them to be credible when they approach a centralized exchange to be listed later on. So I think this is where we see also an unfair advantage for DeFi is this velocity of listing, and dYdX with this permissionless listing feature really enables any projects to come and get listed. The infrastructure is also upgraded to make sure that we get enough liquidity. So we are trying to think of this feature of list anything and trade anything, but also building the infrastructure underlying to make sure that the market and the liquidity along these newer tokens remain tradable and a good experience enough for those users.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, two big benefits that I personally see is it also takes away a little bit of the workload for the validators if you have to vote on every single asset in the governance process, right? So we can focus maybe on other topics when it comes to governance. And the second advantage that I also see for dYdX is that you can more quickly grab some of the traction of, let's say, new tokens that are popular. Because in the past, I had the feeling that oftentimes by the time an asset made it to a perp stacks or centralized exchange, it was already launched many months, right? So you as a user, you bought at more disadvantaged prices, let's say. So
absolutely, that's right. So velocity is really core into everything we are doing. And as you mentioned, permissionless listing, we just help to catch trends much earlier.
Interesting, cool. All right. Yeah. Then my final question. Yeah, something related to events and so on. So there's a Cosmoverse upcoming in Dubai, October, and you guys are also involved with the Cosmoverse this year. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more? What is it about, and what is the goal of dYdX there?
Absolutely. So we've been part of the Cosmoverse journey as soon as we joined the SDK, the Cosmos SDK family, I would say. So we were very excited to be part of the Cosmoverse last year in Istanbul. That was a lot of fun and a great moment for us to connect with the tech partners, the validators, the contributors. It's just a good way for us to be within the family, I would say. For this year, for the Cosmoverse Dubai, we essentially got together with the Cosmoverse team, and we thought how we could be contributing and essentially creating a stream around the dYdX. So there will be within Cosmoverse a dYdX day. So it's a day which is still being designed right now, but will be packed of infrastructure updates, but also really looking at the trading of perpetuals and trying to bring, I would say, a larger audience of traders and make them understand the stack. Of course, most make them understand the stack and the infrastructure capabilities around the validators and the dYdX chain overall. So if you join the Cosmoverse, you will have also the chance to be joining the dYdX day within the same venue. So we try to be as modular as possible and try to fit and contribute to the Cosmoverse effort. This is still the early days. I cannot tell you too much yet, but I can tell you I'm very, very excited about the lineup, about the format we will be experimenting, and also contributing together to the Cosmoverse event by having like a package day focusing on one of these prominent chain of Cosmos, which is the dYdX chain.
Right. So you heard it, guys. Come to Dubai in October if you want to
Absolutely
meet the dYdX team, and obviously there will be more announcements by the Cosmoverse team and dYdX account, I guess. So it's like some preliminary discussions here. But yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Charles. Maybe can you let us know how can people find you on X?
Absolutely. You can find me via the dYdX Twitter handle at dYdX or dYdX Foundation. Otherwise, if you want to find me precisely on Twitter, I am at Charles Dossi, or you Google Charles dYdX, and I'm sure someone will show you the way to my Twitter handles and socials. Thanks really much for having me today. I'm very excited about the upcoming Cosmoverse, and I'd like to thank the Stakecito team for your efforts and congratulate you also for the performance of the validator. I think the validator you run is among the top performer monthly, but also being like the largest home for the largest number of dYdX stakers. So you're really like on the podium on multiple fronts, and we are very, very excited and grateful for your contribution to dYdX.
Thank you so much, Charles. This really means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Then, yeah, thanks for the discussion. Have a good day and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
See you in Dubai. Cheers.